Some people bend under pressure, others turn it into fuel. In both versions of the story, Dexter's sister is the latter, but the way she burns is different. The Debra Morgan on screen is raw emotion, a hurricane of profanity and heart. The one in the books, she's more restrained, more calculated, still tough, still determined, but shaped by a different world. And when you break them down, you start to see just how much those differences matter. In the show, Debra Morgan is fire and instinct. She swears like a sailor, makes decisions in the heat of the moment, and wears her emotions on her sleeve. She doesn't just want to be good at her job, she wants to prove she belongs in a room full of men who underestimate her. Every case is personal, every victory hard-fought, every failure a wound she wears openly. Her bond with Dexter is everything, even when it twists into something painful, something she can't fully understand. Her arc reaches its peak when she learns the truth about Dexter and wrestles with the unbearable weight of it. The emotional turmoil, the self-doubt, the spiraling descent into self-destruction, all of it comes from this moment. The Deb in Jeff Lindsay's Dexter novels, she plays the game differently. She's still determined to prove herself, but she does it with more restraint. She doesn't explode in frustration the way her TV counterpart does. Instead, she channels it into strategy, knowing that losing control means losing ground. Her language is cleaner, her emotions more measured, but she's no less fierce. She's ambitious, she wants respect, and she works twice as hard to get it. The fire is still there, it just burns slower, steadier. The books paint a picture of someone who feels the same struggles as her on-screen counterpart, but doesn't let them break her composure as often. Her biggest goal, both in the books and the show, is to climb the ranks of Miami Metro. But while Show Deb starts as a vice cop before moving into homicide, Book Deb starts in the same department as Dexter, working in the sex crimes unit in Darkly Dreaming Dexter. Her ambition is just as fierce, but she deals with the misogyny of her male colleagues by playing smarter rather than lashing out. She works the system rather than fighting it head-on, a stark contrast to her TV counterpart's more confrontational approach. Then there's the biggest difference of all. Deborah never finds out what Dexter really is. In the show, her discovery is a defining moment. It breaks her, remakes her, turns her into someone who will sacrifice everything for her brother, even herself. But in the books, she never truly knows. She suspects, she senses something is off. In Dearly Devoted Dexter, she sees firsthand how Dexter is unnervingly comfortable with things that would shake any normal person. She even asks him directly at one point if he's a killer, but she never gets the confirmation that changes everything. The tragedy of TV Deb is that she sees Dexter for what he is and still can't let him go. The tragedy of Book Deb is that she never fully sees him at all. Another key difference, her relationship with Dexter is far less central in the books. While the show builds their bond into one of the most emotionally complex aspects of the story, culminating in her struggle to accept his darkness, the books focus more on Deborah's own journey. She still values Dexter, but she's more independent, more focused on her career and personal life. Why Dexter is delicious, she's a mother, something that never happens in the show. This version of Deborah is more grounded, more capable of moving beyond the shadows of her brother. In Dexter in the Dark, Deborah begins relying more on herself than ever before, stepping away from Dexter's shadow. She's seen as a capable and respected detective, but her relationship with Dexter starts to show cracks, not because she discovers his secret, but because she no longer needs him in the same way. She still trusts him, but she's more willing to challenge him and follow her instincts, rather than assuming he's always right. Another difference is how her personal relationships play out. The show puts a heavy emphasis on Deborah's love life, from her troubled relationship with Lundy to her disastrous choices with the men in her life, like Quinn, and even the shocking reveal of her feelings for Dexter. In the books, her relationships are less central to her character arc. She does have romances, her relationship with Chutski in Dearly Devoted Dexter being one example. But they don't define her the way they often do in the show. Instead, her professional struggles and her need for respect in a male-dominated workplace take center stage. Her relationship with Lagerta is another key difference. In the show, Lagerta and Deborah have a rivalry that evolves over time, shifting from mentorship to outright hostility. In the books, however, Lagerta is more antagonistic from the start, and their interactions remain tense until Lagerta is killed off much earlier in the story, a major departure from the show's longer, more drawn-out conflict between them. Book Lagerta is more overtly corrupt and dislikes Deborah openly, while Show Lagerta is a more complex, politically minded figure who has moments of genuine mentorship mixed with manipulation. The way she handles cases also sets her apart. Show Deb often acts on gut instinct, making emotional decisions and throwing herself into danger, while Book Deb is more methodical, relying on evidence and strategy. She still has the same determination, but she approaches her work with a different mindset, less emotionally reactive and more calculated calculating. She's more aware of how people perceive her, knowing she has to fight twice as hard for the same respect, and this affects how she navigates cases. One of the most striking aspects of Book Deb's journey is how she develops without Dexter's moral guidance, because he never offers it. In the show, Dexter acts as a strange anchor for Deb, someone she constantly turns to for support, even when she shouldn't. But in the books, she doesn't lean on him in the same way. She has to rely on her own instincts, and as the series progresses, she becomes a more confident and capable detective, making decisions that are hers alone. This makes Book Deb a more self-sufficient character, whereas Show Deb is often defined by her relationship with Dexter, even when it's toxic. Deborah's relationship with Dexter in the books is protective, but never reaches the all-consuming, self-destructive obsession that defines her TV counterpart. While she cares for him deeply, she does not hinge her identity on being his guardian. In Double Dexter, for instance, Deborah is suspicious of Dexter's odd behaviors, but she never spirals into paranoia or self-loathing over it. She remains focused on her own responsibilities, treating Dexter as a priority, but not an emotional crutch. This is a stark contrast to Show Deb, who sacrifices her principles and ultimately her life because of her inability to separate herself from her brother's darkness. Deb's strength comes from her ability to keep moving forward, even when things don't make sense. She has an unwavering instinct for justice, but she never loses herself trying to protect someone who may not deserve it. And then there's her survival. The book series allows Deborah to keep growing, evolving, and proving that she can hold her own in a brutal world. The show, in contrast, uses her as a tragic figure. Her story is inextricably tied to Dexter's downfall, and she becomes collateral damage in his descent. But in the books, she's never just a supporting player in someone else's tragedy. She's the master of her own fate, and maybe that's the biggest difference of all. As the book series progresses, Debra Morgan's leadership skills come into sharper focus. Unlike her TV counterpart, who often wrestles with self-doubt and emotional outbursts, Book Deb gradually evolves into a commanding presence in Miami Metro. By Dexter is delicious, she has risen to the rank of lieutenant, a role she handles with authority and composure. She earns the respect of her colleagues not through brute force or personal sacrifices, but through consistent, calculated decision-making. Her ability to balance the chaos of her job without completely unraveling sets her apart from Show Deb, whose emotions often dictate her actions. This version of Deborah embodies the resilience of a woman navigating a male-dominated field without losing sight of her personal growth. She doesn't just want to prove herself, she actively carves out a space where she belongs, making decisions not from a place of desperation, but from confidence in her abilities. One of the most overlooked aspects of Book Deborah is her relationship with Dexter's stepchildren, Cody and Asta. Unlike in the show, where her interactions with them are minimal, the books depict her as more actively involved in their lives. As Dexter slowly discovers that Cody shares his own dark tendencies in Dexter in the Dark and Dexter is delicious, Deborah remains oblivious to this side of the boy, but still plays a role in his upbringing. She sees herself as their protector, often stepping in when Rita is overwhelmed. However, unlike Dexter, who views Cody as a potential apprentice in his twisted moral code, Deborah sees him as just a kid, one she wants to keep safe and on the right path. This further highlights how different their worldviews are. Dexter looks for control, while Deborah operates from a place of genuine care. Though she never learns the full truth about Cody's potential for violence, her presence in his life acts as an unintentional safeguard, reinforcing a normalcy that Dexter might have otherwise stripped away. So, which version do you prefer? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite psychological thrillers.